The easiest emergency meals ever. No fridge, no stove, no power, no problem. Just add water, no cook meals to keep you fed when the last thing on your mind is what's for dinner. Hey guys, it's Gerald with Get Prepared. Welcome everyone. Today I'm sharing some new meal in a jar recipes that are perfect for summer. Meals in a jar are a great way to fill your prepper pantry with emergency meals that are ready when you need them. Whether it's a power outage, severe weather, lockdowns, supply chain disruptions, or anything in between. These meals are shelf stable and require no added ingredients other than water. Many meals in a jar are warm, cozy meals for cold weather. But what about cool meals for warm weather? We just officially entered hurricane season, and experts are calling for a hotter than usual summer with more extreme weather and a much higher draw on our aging power grid, leading to the possibility of rolling blackouts and other issues across the country. Having some cold, no-cook options on the shelf will be a very good thing when the power and the AC are down. Not to mention all the other times these meals can come in handy when you just don't have it in you to cook a traditional meal, emergency or not. The recipes I'm sharing today are for a summertime classic, chicken salad in a just add water jar meal. And because it's how we do things around here, I'm going to show you several different variations on the basic recipe to keep things fresh and interesting and avoid food fatigue. Let's jump in and get started. Now I'm going to be making this chicken salad in a pint-sized mason jar. I'm using a wide mouth pint. This is just going to make it easier to get things in and out of the jar. And the only other thing that we're going to need is going to be a canning funnel, of course, a lid for the jar. And if you want to store these for longer than a year or so on the shelf, then you would want to use an oxygen absorber. Or you could vacuum seal it. Some people do that as well. Now this size jar is going to be about 2 to 3 servings worth of chicken salad. And I'm also going to show you how to make a smaller single serve jar in a little half pint wide mouth jar. These would be great for taking to work, for instance, or having stashed in, someplace that you might need a really quick lunch that you didn't expect. Keep it in your desk at work or in your cubby or your locker, just a really great thing to have on hand. Keep in mind, if you like to use these for something like hiking, or if you live in an earthquake-prone area, you can always do these in Mylar bags instead of the glass mason jars. All of my chicken salad is going to start with freeze-dried chopped chicken. Now, freeze-dried meats are shelf-stable for years and years. When this is in the can I purchase it in, it's shelf-stable for 25 years. Once you open it up, if you store it like this, you've got about a year to 2 years to use it, depending on the humidity where you live and things like that. If you seal it back up in a mason jar and use an oxygen absorber, you're going to get usually 8 to 10 years on this jar, depending on what you put in it for ingredients. Now this chopped chicken is on sale this month. It's a coupon special item actually. It's actually called diced chicken. I'll put a link down to what I use down in the description box below. This chicken is perfect because it is all little pieces of chicken, so it's perfect for chicken salad. And because it's on sale, it's a great time for me to stock up my pantry with a whole bunch of jars of chicken salad. If you're on my sale alert system, you already got your coupon to get this on sale. And if not, if you text alert to my number at the bottom of the screen, I will add you onto my list so that you can have coupons and discounts and sales as soon as the prices drop. I'm going to be using 1 cup of this chopped chicken. And now this is going to be a classic chicken salad. So I'm just going to add the classic chicken salad ingredients. So I'm going to be adding celery, freeze-dried celery. Now the celery that I have open that I'm working with right now is in slices. You can see this is sliced. And I want smaller pieces for my chicken salad, so I'm just going to break it up into little diced pieces. That's one good thing about freeze-dried food is it's very easy to break up. You don't need to use a knife if you want it a little bit smaller. If you have diced celery, just go ahead and use that. If you freeze dry your own celery, of course, you can freeze dry it in whatever shape or size you want to use it. All right, I'm using a 1/4 cup of the celery in this chicken salad, and then I'm going to be using a little bit of chopped onion. So the onion, I'm using 1/8 of a cup, which is the same as 2 tablespoons if you don't have 1/8 of a cup measure. Next, I'm going to add some seasoning. So I'm going to be using The Blend, which is a salt, pepper, and garlic blend that we really like. I typically use Chef's Choice for my chicken salad, but I noticed this is sold out right now, so anyone who doesn't have it wouldn't be able to get it right now. So I figured I would use this because these are pretty similar in flavor profiles. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one today. But if you do have the Chef's Choice and you like that in your chicken salad, you can use that one instead. And if you happen to go on the site and see that it's back in stock, I would grab it right away because that's a popular item. I am using a teaspoon of my seasoning. Now, of course, you can adjust this if you're sensitive to salt and sodium, or if you can't eat as much salt and sodium, you can adjust this down. Now, my final ingredient here is going to be my secret ingredient. So I'm going to be adding some cream cheese powder. Now, this is not going to really make it taste like cream cheese, but this is going to give it a creaminess in texture and flavor that similar to what you would get if you put in mayonnaise, but we're not going to have to use mayonnaise because there's no such thing as dried mayonnaise powder or freeze-dried mayonnaise. We could make mayonnaise out of freeze-dried eggs, but that would be a lot of work. And the whole point with these meals is they're super easy. So I am using a 1/4 cup of cream cheese powder. You've got to trust me on this. Now, the other thing you can do if you don't want to do this is you can use mayonnaise packets like these and just tuck a few mayonnaise packets inside the lid of the jar. If it bothers you to put the packet right in, some people feel like these packets are dirty, you could put this into a fold top sandwich baggie. Definitely use the fold top, not the zip top. It'll be easier to get in here. I personally don't think my baggies are going to be any cleaner than these packets. So when I have done this, I just put the packets right inside. Anywhere from probably 2 to 4 packets would be good for this size of a chicken salad. And then you would just use a little bit less water and drain off any extra water that you had and just add the mayonnaise at the end after the salad is all refreshed. So that's one reason that I prefer to do it this way, because this way it really kind of absorbs any extra water. It doesn't leave it watery. It gives it, I feel like the flavor and texture are just about the same as it is with the mayonnaise, but it's just easier and it's one less thing that I have to put in there and worry about how long this mayonnaise packet is going to last. Of course, you might have mayonnaise packets that you get from like fast food or takeout. This one happens to be from McDonald's. We always save these, or you might have someone that could save them for you. You can also buy them on Amazon. So that's another option, or you could even do both. So you could tuck a mayonnaise packet or two in here and use the cream cheese powder. That just keeps it very, it soaks up any additional water. It leaves it a nice texture. It doesn't leave it watery at all. I really like it. Now, this cream cheese powder that I'm using today is from Firehouse Flavors. I have tried another brand of cream cheese powder that I got from Amazon. I like that cream cheese powder just fine in certain recipes, but for some reason in this chicken salad done this way, this particular cream cheese powder just gives just the right flavor and just the right texture. So I'm going to put a link to this cream cheese powder down below. I do try to let you guys know what brands I use, especially if I've noticed a difference between brands in a certain recipe. So just keep that in mind. I have done it with the other brand of cream cheese powder and it was okay. It just wasn't quite as good. I have also done it with my Thrive Life sour cream powder. So you could do that as well. It doesn't end up with quite the same texture, but it's still pretty good if you don't want to do mayonnaise packets. So this jar is now all ready to go. There is a little bit of extra room if you do want to add some mayonnaise packets on the top. Then now would be the time to do it. And then we're going to go ahead and put the lid on. If you were putting this away for the long term, you would want to put an oxygen absorber in the top. I would put a 100cc oxygen absorber in here. I'm going to be fixing this up to show you how it turns out, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and put my lid right on. And here is my jar of chicken salad all ready to go. Now I'm going to just show you real quick how to do the single serve version. It's basically all the same ingredients, just cut in half. And I am using a wide mouth 1/2 pint jar, which is perfect for this. And I probably don't even need my funnel. I'm just going to do this. Get the chicken. That's a 1/2 cup of chicken. This is 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of the celery chopped, 1 tablespoon of the chopped onion. I've got 1/2 teaspoon of my seasoning here and 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of the cream cheese powder. Now, of course, if you wanted, you could use the mayonnaise packet in place of or in addition to the cream cheese powder. And there's our little single serve size chicken salad all ready to go. Now, I actually like to use my chalkboard markers, or my chalk markers will actually write right on the jar or the lid. So these are perfect if I don't want to put a label on it, because a lot of times I'm just using these for quick lunches. It will also write right on the jar, but because of the white color of the chicken, you can't really see that. So I'm going to put it on the lid, and this is ready to go. Next salad I'm going to do is going to be a pesto chicken salad. Now, most of you probably know what pesto sauce is. If you don't, it's an Italian sauce used often for pasta. Sometimes you can put it on pizza and other things like that. It's just a very herby, oily sauce made with a lot of basil, garlic, and Parmesan cheese are the main flavors in that sauce. It's delicious. super garlicky, and it makes a really nice variation of chicken salad. I am going to start again with my chopped chicken. 1 cup of the chicken. And for my veggie this time, I'm doing some red bell pepper. Now you can mix these up any way you want. You can do whatever veggies you want. You could just do more celery and onions if you wanted, but I wanted to do this with the red bell pepper. Now, just like with the celery, the red bell peppers that I'm working with are sliced, and I want little dices, so I am just going to break them up into smaller pieces. If you have red bell pepper you're working with that's already diced, then you don't have to break them up. Now, these are freeze-dried, not dehydrated. So there is a difference when you're using freeze-dried versus dehydrated, because dehydrated vegetables shrink and shrivel and end up a lot smaller and a lot tougher than they were originally. Freeze-dried maintain the same size and shape. So you would need to make changes in the amounts if you were doing dehydrated. Dehydrated also doesn't come back to life as well in a recipe like this that's just a cold soak. So in this case, we're using freeze-dried bell peppers. You can also cut these with scissors if that's easier and faster for you. I'm adding 1/3 cup of the red bell peppers. And now I'm adding some pesto sauce mix. So this is from a package mix. It's a Knorr brand. I just open up, when I'm using packages like this and I'm not using the whole pack, I will sometimes open several packages up and keep it in a container like this, but you could just measure out of this packet, and they may even sell this in bulk. I know some of these Knorr sauce mixes, they do sell in bulk, but I've got mine right here. And this is just a Parmesan cheese lid that I stick on the top of the regular mouth mason jars. That works really well. It's not super airtight, so keep this out of the moisture. I'm using a tablespoon of the pesto sauce mix, and then I'm using my cream cheese powder. I'm doing 1/4 cup of the cream cheese powder. All right, so that's everything we need in here. There is room if I wanted to add the mayonnaise packets right on the top, I could do that, or just put the lid on, and the pesto chicken salad is ready to go. And for the single serve size of the pesto chicken salad, I'm just doing my 1/2 cup of chicken. This is 1/6 cup of the red bell peppers. You can just fill your 1/3 cup up halfway. Mine actually has markings on the cup halfway up for half, so I really like that about this set of measuring cups. I'm kind of a measuring cup and spoon set freak. I have a lot of them. This is 1/2 tablespoon of the pesto sauce mix, and then 2 tablespoons or 1/8 cup of the cream cheese powder. Once again, you can add a mayonnaise packet if you want, in addition to or in place of the cream cheese powder, and add the lid, and our pesto chicken salad individual cup is ready to go. For my next version, I'm going to do a Thai peanut chicken salad. It's going to be delicious. Once again, I'm starting with my chicken. I'm doing 1 cup of the chicken, and this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm doing a couple of dehydrated vegetables, which is going to be different than the others. So this is some cabbage. This is a Napa cabbage that's dehydrated. So I will have a link down below to where I find this. I'm using 1/3 cup. Next, I'm doing some green onions. Now this is freeze-dried, not dehydrated. I'm doing a tablespoon of the green onions. Now, if you did not want to use these vegetables, you could just use celery and onions or any other vegetables you wanted that you thought would go well with this chicken salad. And then I'm using 1 more dehydrated vegetable, and that is carrots. Now, these are very tiny little pieces of carrots, so I have not had any trouble with these rehydrating just in the cold soak. Something like this could be a little bit difficult, though, if it was any bigger pieces. So either use a very tiny little dice like this, or these are like little slivers, or maybe like a shredded dehydrated carrot if you have that. But these vegetables do give it the nice sort of Thai Asian flair that we want to go for. Next, I'm going to be using some peanut butter powder. I'm using 1/4 cup of the peanut butter powder. I'm using some of the cream cheese powder, just a tablespoon of the cream cheese powder. I'm using soy sauce powder. Now, I will have sources for all of these powders and ingredients down in the description box below the video, as well as a coupon code. I'm using a tablespoon of the soy sauce powder. I'm using some honey crystals, 2 teaspoons of the honey crystals, and then some lime juice powder. Now, these powders are pretty handy once you have them. They're not too expensive, and once you have them, I use them in lots of different meals in a jar and to season lots of different things. I'm using a teaspoon of the lime juice powder. And now our Thai peanut chicken salad is ready to go. And then for the single serve of the Thai peanut chicken salad, I've got my half a cup of chicken, my 1/6 of a cup of the dehydrated cabbage, I've got a half a tablespoon of the freeze-dried green onion, 3/4 of a teaspoon of the dehydrated carrot, 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of the peanut butter powder. I've got half a tablespoon each of the cream cheese powder and the soy sauce powder. Now this is a lot of ingredients to remember. I will have a little printable recipe page that I will link down below the video. And then my final ingredient here is the half a teaspoon of lime juice powder. And now our single serve is ready to go. The next variation I'm going to do is a curry chicken salad. Once again, I'm starting with my 1 cup of chopped chicken. I'm going to be using celery in this salad. And once again, I do want the small diced pieces. If you are making these salads up in bulk, because I do recommend trying every recipe at least once to make sure that it's something that you and your family like, and to be able to make any tweaks that you need to make. If you want to add more or less salt or seasoning, if you need to change the water amounts a little bit in the recipe, and then take notes of what you do. And then once you have it perfect for you, then it really is a good time saver to make these up in bulk. So if you are making these up in bulk, you could use a mini food processor or something like that to make your celery smaller if you needed to. You could certainly leave it larger if you have slices, or like I said, if you are freeze drying your own, just freeze dry it in the size and shape that you want to use it in. But doing these up in bulk is a great way to save time and money. And you just might want to streamline the chopping of the celery if you were doing that. I'm using a 1/4 cup of the celery. And next I'm using some freeze-dried mango. This adds a little bit of tropical sweetness to this salad. It is so delicious. It's kind of along the lines of people adding grapes and things like that to their chicken salad. That little bit of sweetness is amazing. And with curry, a little bit of sweetness, especially from the mango, is really, really delicious. I have a shrimp curry recipe that I like to make sometimes that is served with a mango chutney on top, and it is so delicious. I'm using 1/3 of a cup of the mango. If you were using a mango that was freeze-dried in larger pieces like slices, you would want to break those up. This is a little bit larger chunks than what I'm used to working with, but these will work just fine. I'm going to be using the cream cheese powder in this salad as well. But this time I'm only using the 1/8 of a cup or 2 tablespoons, because I'm also going to be using some coconut milk powder, which adds a really nice flavor to this curry chicken salad. If you don't have this and you don't want to buy an extra ingredient, you can do this with the full amount of cream cheese powder. I've done it both ways. I do really like it with half and half, the coconut milk powder and the cream cheese powder. So 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of each. Next, I'm adding my curry powder. Now, this is not spicy. This is just a regular yellow curry powder that is not spicy. Some people think that all curry is spicy. So if you want spicy, you could either use there are spicy, like Madras curry powder, I think is spicy, or you could add some cayenne powder to this to make it spicy. But this is not going to be spicy. It's just going to have that nice curry flavor. And next, I'm just going to add my seasoning, a half a teaspoon of the seasoning. And my curry chicken salad is ready to go. And then for the single serve curry chicken salad, I've got my half a cup of chicken, 1/8 of a cup or 2 tablespoons of celery, a 1/6 of a cup, half of my 1/3 of a cup of the freeze-dried mango. I've got 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of the cream cheese powder, half a teaspoon of curry powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of my seasoning. And now, single serve curry chicken salad all ready to go. My last salad today is going to be a Waldorf chicken salad, which takes its cue from a Waldorf salad, which is a classic salad with apples, grapes, celery, walnuts, and a mayonnaise-based dressing. My mom used to make Waldorf salad all the time when I was a kid, so I have a lot of fond memories of this salad. It also plays on the trend of adding fruit and nuts to chicken salad, which is very popular. So once again, I'm starting with my chicken. One more thing I wanted to mention about this chicken in particular is that this chicken actually has no salt added, unlike most other freeze-dried chickens, canned chickens, things like that. So if you happen to be using a different chicken, a different freeze-dried chicken, and it does have salt added, then you might want to reduce the seasoning and salt ingredients in the chicken salad. This chicken has no salt added, so it's just the chicken. So if you need to avoid sodium or reduce sodium in your diet, or you know, for medical reasons, or you just want to for health reasons, this is a really good choice. I'm doing 1 cup of chicken. Next, I'm going to add some freeze-dried Fuji apples. And like some of my other ingredients, I want these in smaller pieces, so I'm just going to break them up into the size pieces that I want. Another thing I like to do is if I have pieces in my canisters that are already smaller pieces just because they naturally broke, I will use those for recipes like this where I want the smaller pieces. That way I can save the larger pieces for snacking and, you know, desserts where you might want the whole slice. So I'm using a 1/4 cup of the Fuji apples. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my dressing ingredients now. So I'm adding cream cheese powder for this one as well. A 1/4 cup of the cream cheese powder. I'm adding honey powder or honey crystals. A 1/2 tablespoon of the honey. Some lemon juice powder. A 1/2 teaspoon of the lemon juice powder. And my seasoning. So I'll also a 1/2 teaspoon of that seasoning. Now you'll see in just a minute why I added these powdered dressing ingredients before the end of the jar this time. So the next couple ingredients I'm going to add some freeze-dried grapes. Now I have these in a Snackies pouch and not in a canister. These are something my kids love to snack on. These are super tasty, and I just don't have a large canister open right now. Once again, I do want some smaller pieces of grapes, so I am going to break some of these grapes in half if they are larger pieces. So I'm using a 1/4 cup of the grapes, and then I'm using some celery. Once again, I do want the smaller bits of celery. And I've got a 1/4 cup of the celery, the freeze-dried celery. Now on the very top of this jar, I'm going to include something extra. I'm going to put a little snack pack of walnuts so that we can have the walnuts for the Waldorf chicken salad. So I'm just going to put this right on the top of the jar here. Now you could do this many different ways. You could put some sort of nuts, walnuts, or anything else into a little baggie and twist it up. I would put them in a separate baggie because we don't want to put it in when we refresh this salad. And if for some reason the nuts were to get rancid, because nuts have oils that can get rancid faster than all of these freeze-dried ingredients. So if for some chance they were to get rancid before you were to eat this meal, then you would be able to remove them from the meal and still have the chicken salad without the nuts. But you could also, if you can't fit a bag of nuts into the jar, you could attach it to the outside of the jar on top, something like that, and that would work just as well. There is our Waldorf chicken salad. And finally, for the single serve Waldorf chicken salad, I am going to do my 1/2 cup of chicken, 1/4 cup of grapes, 1/4 cup of celery. Actually, these are 1/8 of a cup. Sorry, not 1/4 cup. 1/8 of a cup or 2 tablespoons. 1/8 of a cup of my apples. 1/8 of a cup of the cream cheese powder. 3/4 of a teaspoon of the honey crystals. 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of my seasoning. Now in this little jar, there really isn't room for nuts. So if you wanted to have nuts with this, you could just have them in a separate little packet or pouch on the side. Now let's turn these jars into chicken salad. I'm going to start with the larger jar, and it's easiest to put these out into a separate container, although I have done it in the jar before. With the larger jar, it's easier to put it into a separate container, so it's easier to stir. So I'm just going to go ahead and empty this into the container. And for a container this size, I'm going to be using about 3/4 of a cup of water. Now this can vary a little bit based on several things. Mostly, I think, how humid it is where you live. I've had people say they've had to adjust water amounts based on humidity in the area, or possibly like how high they are in the mountains. But if you should end up having extra water hanging around, you know, it's a little bit too watery for you, then you would want to use less water. I don't really picture anyone having that issue. I think the more likely issue would be if it did not quite get tender enough. If your chicken didn't get quite tender enough all the way through, you would possibly need a little bit more water. That's the key when it comes to working with freeze-dried food, is adding a little bit more time or a little bit more water or a little bit more heat, depending on what you're working with. Now, some people will use hot or warm water to refresh their chicken salad just because they want it to go more quickly. I don't mind letting this sit. I prefer to do it with cold water, and I've not had any issues. So I'm just letting this get so that everything is mixed in and there's no dry areas. You can see it's a little moist, but it's not too moist. It's not too watery. We don't need too much water in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just put a lid on this. And just let it sit for about an hour is about what it's going to need. I am going to put this in the refrigerator, but that is not entirely necessary. It's not going to be sitting long enough to harm anything. So if you were in a power outage and you were just doing this meal and you didn't want to have to open your fridge or get into your fridge, it would be fine to let this set out at room temperature. I have done that before plenty of times. And for the mini jars, I do often do these right in the jar because this is something portable that I like to just keep on hand and have a quick snack. So I do like to mark the amount of water on it. These little jars usually take about 6 tablespoons. Now, I did put in this mayonnaise packet just for example, but I actually do like these with just the cream cheese powder and no mayonnaise. So I'm going to go ahead and add, this is 4 tablespoons of water, about a 1/4 cup. So I'm going to start with this. I like using these little cups when I'm measuring small amounts of water just to make sure that it's more accurate. If you try to measure a small amount of water in a larger cup, you're more likely to be inaccurate. So then I've got my final 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup. And I'm just going to carefully mix this around. It can be a little bit difficult when you are dealing with a jar like this, but if you're careful, you can do it pretty easily. All right, now that I've got this all mixed pretty well, I'm just going to go ahead and let it set, just like the other one, for about an hour or so. Now, I like to use these lids for storage, these 2-piece lids that have a nice seal, but if I'm actually working with something in my fridge, I like to use a 1-piece lid. So these lids are plastic. They're not designed for storage or canning, but they do have this silicone gasket, which makes them leak proof, and I really like to use these. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and I'm going to go ahead and get this put into the fridge for, like I said, about an hour. It can be stirred once in between, but it doesn't really have to be. So we will see you back in a little bit to see how this has come out. All right, now let's prepare our pesto chicken salad. So once again, I've got one of these dishes. I love these containers. These are Rubbermaid Brilliance. Now, I've been using the glass ones. These also come in like an acrylic kind of material, but I'm trying to switch away from a lot of the plastics that we store our food in. So I'm using these glass ones. Another thing I really like about these is that these can actually be used to bake in up to 450 degrees. So I have used these for little mini single-serve casserole dishes. So I've got my pesto chicken salad mix. I'm going to go ahead and empty this right into the container. And once again, 3/4 of a cup is usually a good amount of water for this amount of chicken salad. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. Just like with the other one, you can adjust this up or down depending on the texture that you end up with. I would prefer to have a little bit too little water and then have to add just a little bit more rather than having it too soupy or too wet. But if you were doing this without the cream cheese powder or some other substitute like a sour cream powder or something, then you could use a little bit of extra water and just drain it out before you added your mayo. But I much prefer to do it this way. This smells so good and garlicky. This pesto version is very, very, very fragrant. I love the smell of pesto. All right, just like with the other salad, I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on this. And I'm going to stick mine in the fridge, but this would be just fine if you wanted to keep it out of the fridge for an hour or so. Now, I'm not going to make up the individual size for each one of these varieties because that would end up being a lot of chicken salad for me to eat. But it's the same basic idea for every individual one that it was for the original chicken salad. And you can either mix it up in the cup, or if you want to have an easier time mixing, you can put it out into a bowl or a different container. All right, time for our Thai peanut chicken salad. This is one of my favorite flavor profiles. I love Thai peanut chicken. Thai peanut anything, really. Go ahead and empty my salad into the container. And we are going to start with 3/4 of a cup of cold water. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on this one and put this in the fridge. Now let's mix up the curry chicken salad. Once again, I've got 3/4 of a cup of water, cold water. This one is ready to set. Now you can stir this in between, like halfway through if you want, but it should be fine if you don't get a chance to. And then our final variation is the Waldorf chicken salad. Now this one, remember, I've got my packet of nuts inside, so I'm just going to remove this and set it aside. We're going to use this later. This one's a little bit more packed in because I wanted to get that nut container in there. And I'm going to go ahead and start with 3/4 of a cup of cold water. Smells good. It smells sweet from the fruit, and I can smell that little bit of honey and lemon. Such a fresh combination. All right, now this is all evenly mixed and moistened. I'm going to go ahead and put this one into the fridge as well. Let's take a look at our first salad, which is the classic chicken salad. It's been about an hour, a little bit longer than an hour maybe, and you can see, hopefully you can see how nicely this has come back. It's creamy like chicken salad. All you have to do is just taste it and make sure that your meat and your veggies are tender all the way through. That's perfect. Now, for some reason, this wasn't quite tender enough. I would just add a tiny bit more water. Water just a little bit at a time and let it set a little bit longer. But this is perfect. I love the way when you do chicken salad like this with the freeze-dried chicken, you get the real chunks of chicken with that real texture like you do when you make fresh chicken salad from fresh chicken and not canned. It's not that mushy, shredded, stringy canned chicken. It's real, beautiful, delicious chunks of chicken. And this tastes amazing. This would be great on a sandwich or a wrap or just on some crackers. I would really like this on some crackers. And now I want to check out the single serve. All right, here is the single serve chicken salad. I'm going to give this one a try and make sure this one is all ready to go. This one is perfect as well. So here is just one single serving of chicken salad. I could even eat this right out of the cup, but it would be great with crackers, pita bread, just on some lettuce, anything like this. This would be a wonderful, wonderful lunch. All right, now let's check out the pesto chicken salad. Look at this. So beautiful. I'm going to give this one a taste. Oh, that is really good. I love that pesto flavor. This would be really great with some crackers. This one is ready to go. Okay, I'm going to check out the Thai peanut chicken salad. This is so fragrant. This is definitely probably the most different of all the chicken salads and the most exotic, I guess you would call it. Let's taste this and see if everything is tender. Wow, that is so good. This is one, if you like your peanut sauce spicy, you could add a little bit of cayenne powder or even like a sriracha powder. It'd be really, really good in this, but this is super, super tasty. This is so flavorful. This would be really, really good in a wrap or even with some tortilla chips. Okay, let's check out our curry chicken salad. Look at how beautiful this is. Look at those chunks of mango in there with the chicken and the celery. This beautiful yellow curry color. Smells so good. If you're a curry kind of person, I'm going to give it a try. This is absolutely delicious. I love the little sweet touch of the mango in there with the curry chicken. This is so good. All right, and now let's check out our Waldorf chicken salad. Now remember, this is the one that has the extra pack of nuts that we're going to put on when it's all finished. I'm just going to make sure that this has completely come back to life and that our fruit is tender and our chicken is tender. And if it is, then it's ready for the nuts. This one is really good too. With the sweet touch from the apples and the grapes. This is so, so tasty. I'm going to go ahead and add the nuts. Now these nuts do have a touch of sweetness on them, so this is something that you could do plain nuts if you wanted. I like the sweet ones. Let's give it a try. But this would be equally as good with just some plain walnuts, or even some slivered or sliced plain almonds would be really good in this as well. That wouldn't be the classic Waldorf, but it would still be really tasty. All right, let's give this a try with the nuts. Ooh, that is really, really good. This is super tasty. I think this would be good on a croissant or even just on some lettuce. Eaten like that, this would be really, really delicious. There are so many ways to enjoy these chicken salads. The most emergency-friendly way would be on some crackers, which you can keep in your medium-term pantry. Just be sure to keep them rotated, or you can vacuum seal them in jars for longer storage. You could keep a jar of crackers with your jar of chicken salad and a bottle of water. You could also cook up some tortillas or flatbread. If you're using these for everyday meals, you can enjoy them with crackers or chips. You can make them into a sandwich with bread or croissants. You could put them in a wrap or a pita bread, or even just spoon them onto a bed of lettuce for a low-carb option. I've even been known to eat these all by themselves right out of the jar with a spoon. However you enjoy them, I hope they make a wonderful and different addition to your meal in a jar collection. Meals in a jar are a great way to stock your emergency pantry with meals that your family will actually want to eat. You control the ingredients and the flavor and create homemade meals with real ingredients that you can feel good about. If you want more recipes, check out my website and my Meal in a Jar playlist, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future recipes. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a sandwich emoji down in the comments, and check out this video next for another great chicken recipe. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.